The unexpected champion. The gleaming spires of the galactic Concordat Academy pierce the purple sky of Silox Prime, a testament to the united efforts of 1,000 worlds. Ships of various designs and origins streamed through the atmosphere, depositing new cadets from across the known universe. Among them, a small Earth transport stood out not for its design, but for its rarity. Maria Mitchell stepped onto the landing pad, her dark hair whipping in the alien wind. She clutched a long, slender case to her chest, its weight familiar and comforting. Around her, beings of all shapes, sizes, and compositions disembarked from their vessels. Some slithered, others floated, and a few seemed to phase in and out of reality itself. Towering, four-armed Chromax Cadet bumped into Uria, nearly sending her sprawling. "Watch it, Tiny," it rumbled, peering down at her with four crystalline eyes. Steadied herself, gripping her case tighter. "Sorry," she muttered, though the Chromax had already moved on. She took a deep breath, reminding herself why she was here. Humanity had only recently joined the Galactic Concordat, and she was among the first group of human cadets accepted into the Academy. The weight of an entire species' expectations rested on her shoulders. As she made her way to the registration area, Maria couldn't help but marvel at the diversity around her. Holographic signs in 100 languages floated above the crowd, guiding new arrivals to their destinations. She followed the ones in English, eventually finding herself in a line with other Bictal species. Next, called a bored-looking Vexillion, its tentacles waving lazily as it operated a complex computer terminal. Maria stepped forward. "Name and planet of origin," the Vexillion droned. "Maria Mitchell, Earth." The Vexillion's eyes widened slightly, all 6 of them focusing on Maria. "Ah, one of the new ones. Interesting. Biometric scan, please." Maria placed her hand on a glowing panel. It hummed for a moment before chiming in confirmation. "All seems to be in order," the Vexillion said. "Dormitory assignment, Zeta 12, room 507. Class schedule will be uploaded to your personal device." A tentacle gestured to the case Aria carried. "What's that?" "Oh, this?" Aria hesitated. "It's a family heirloom. A weapon." The Vexillion's tentacles rippled in what might have been amusement. "A weapon? How quaint. You do realize we have energy blasters, plasma cannons, and singularity generators here, right?" Maria felt her cheeks flush. "It's important to me," she said firmly. "Very well," the Vexillion sighed. "It's been cleared by security, so keep your toy. Just don't expect to impress anyone with it." Next. As Aria walked away, she heard the Vexillion mutter something that sounded like primitives to the cadet behind her. She gritted her teeth and kept moving. The dormitories were a marvel of engineering, each one adapting to the specific needs of its inhabitants. As Aria approached Zeta 12, the entrance reconfigured itself to accommodate her human form. Inside, she found a bustling common area filled with cadets from dozens of worlds. Willowy, plant-like being approached her, leaves rustling softly. "You must be the Earthling," it said, its voice like wind through branches. "I'm Silos, your residential advisor. Let me show you to your room." As they walked, Silos explained the basics of academy life. Maria tried to pay attention, but her eyes kept darting around, taking in the incredible sights. Cadets communicated via translators, holograms, and even some form of telepathy. In one corner, group was playing a game that seemed to involve manipulating gravity itself. "Here we are," Silos announced, stopping in front of a door that arised open at their approach. "You'll be sharing with a Lumerian. They're light-based beings, so don't be alarmed if your roommate seems a bit bright." Aria stepped into the room, immediately squinting against the glow emanating from a vaguely humanoid shape hovering near one of the beds. The light dimmed slightly, resolving into a more distinct form. "Greetings," came a melodious voice. "I am Lyra. You must be the human I was told about. Nice to meet you." Aria managed, still blinking spots from her eyes. "I'm Aria." Lyra's form shifted, tendrils of light extending curiously toward the case Aria carried. "What is that?" Aria hesitated, then decided honesty was the best policy. She placed the case on her bed and opened it, revealing a metallic cylinder about the length of her forearm. "It's called a lightsaber," she explained, lifting it carefully. "It's been in my family for generations. Legend says it once belonged to a great warrior who helped unite our world." Lyra pulsed with interest. "May I see it activated?" Aria nodded, took a deep breath, and pressed a small button on the hilt. With a snap hiss, a blade of pure energy erupted from the end, bathing the room in a soft blue glow. Lyra recoiled slightly, then leaned in closer. "Fascinating," the Lumerian whispered. "I've never seen anything quite like it, but it seems rather limited compared to modern weapons, doesn't it?" Aria deactivated the saber, her expression a mix of pride and uncertainty. "Maybe, but it's not just a weapon. It's a symbol of where we came from and what we can become. My grandmother told me that one day it would help humanity prove its worth to the galaxy." Lyra's form rippled in what might have been the equivalent of a shrug. "Well, you're here now. That's a start, I suppose. Come on, we should head to the orientation ceremony. You can leave your heirloom here." As they left the room, Aria cast one last glance at the lightsaber case. Part of her wanted to bring it along, to keep that connection to home close, but she knew she needed to start fitting in. With a small sigh, she followed Lyra into the corridor. The orientation ceremony was held in a massive amphitheater that seemed to defy the laws of physics. The ceiling was a perfect recreation of the space above Silox Prime, stars wheeling slowly overhead. Thousands of cadets filled the seats, creating a tapestry of colors, shapes, and textures. As Aria found a seat, she couldn't help but feel small. Humans were a minority here, easily overlooked among the more exotic species. She spotted a few other Earthlings scattered throughout the crowd, looking just as overwhelmed as she felt. A hush fell over the amphitheater as a holographic image appeared above the central stage. It resolved into the form of Grand Admiral Genva, the Concordet's supreme military leader. Though humanoid in overall shape, Genva's skin shimmered with an iridescent quality, and 6 eyes blinked in unison as the hologram surveyed the crowd. "Welcome, cadets," Genva's voice boomed, automatically translated for each listener. "You stand at the threshold of a great journey. The Galactic Concordat represents the pinnacle of cooperation between sentient species, and each of you has the potential to help shape its future." As the speech continued, Aria found her thoughts drifting back to the lightsaber in her room. She thought of her grandmother's words, of the responsibility she carried. Could a relic from humanity's past really make a difference in this advanced, interconnected future? The ceremony concluded with a spectacular display of holographic fireworks that elicited gasps and appreciative murmurs from the assembled cadets. As they filed out of the amphitheater, Aria overheard snippets of excited conversation in 100 languages. "Did you see the quantum entanglement demonstration? I can't wait to start zero-G combat training. Think they'll let us pilot a Nova-class battlecruiser?" Ria's enthusiasm was tempered by a growing sense of inadequacy. What did she have to offer compared to beings who could manipulate energy with their minds or survive in the vacuum of space? As if sensing her doubt, Lyra's glowing form appeared beside her. "Overwhelming, isn't it?" the Lumerian asked. Ria nodded. "I knew it would be advanced, but this... I'm not sure I belong here." Lyra pulsed gently. Every species represented here was once where humanity is now. The Concordat didn't form overnight. It took millennia of progress, setbacks, and cooperation to reach this point. You're here because your people have potential. It's up to you to prove them right. Rhea managed a small smile. Thanks, Lyra. I guess I just need to find my place. As they made their way back to the dormitory, Rhea's resolve strengthened. She might not have the most advanced technology or the most exotic abilities, but she had determination. And maybe, just maybe, that old lightsaber would prove to be more than just a relic. Little did Rhea know that her journey was about to take an unexpected turn, one that would challenge everything she thought she knew about herself, her weapon, and humanity's place in the vast tapestry of the cosmos. Trials and tribulations. The first weeks at the Galactic Concordat Academy passed in a blur of new experiences and challenges for Rhea. Each day brought fresh wonders and, often, fresh frustrations. The academic courses pushed the limits of her understanding, covering topics that seemed more like magic than science to her Earth-educated mind. Quantum probability manipulation, dark energy harnessing, and multi-dimensional calculus left her head spinning. But it was the practical training that truly tested Rhea's resolve. On a crisp morning, with Silox Prime's twin suns barely peeking over the horizon, Rhea found herself in the Academy's vast combat simulation chamber. The room hummed with energy, its walls shimmering as they prepared to generate any environment imaginable. Instructor Kallax, being composed of swirling plasma contained within a humanoid force field, addressed the assembled cadets. Today, we begin your combat aptitude assessment. You will face a series of challenges designed to test your natural abilities and potential for growth. Rhea shifted nervously, acutely aware of the lightsaber clipped to her belt. She had taken to carrying it everywhere, a talisman against self-doubt. Around her, other cadets readied an assortment of advanced weapons and activated innate powers. Mitchell, Rhea, you're up first, Kallax announced, his voice crackling like solar flares. Rhea stepped forward, her heart pounding. The simulation chamber shimmered, and suddenly she found herself in a dense, alien jungle. The air was thick with humidity, and unfamiliar creatures chittered in the underbrush. Your objective, Kallax's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere, is to reach the extraction point while neutralizing any threats. Begin. Rhea took a deep breath and started moving. She picked her way carefully through the dense foliage, every sense on high alert. A rustle to her left made her freeze. Slowly, she reached for her lightsaber. A crystalline creature, like a cross between a leopard and a praying mantis, burst from the undergrowth. Its faceted eyes locked onto Rhea, mandibles clicking menacingly. Without thinking, Rhea ignited her lightsaber. The blue blade hummed to life just as the creature pounced. She swung wildly, more in panic than with any real technique. To her amazement, the blade sliced cleanly through one of the creature's limbs. It shrieked and retreated, disappearing into the jungle. Rhea stood there, breathing heavily, staring at the glowing blade in her hand. She had never actually used it in combat before. The lightsaber felt different now, almost alive in her grip. Interesting weapon choice, Cadet Mitchell, Kallax's voice commented. Proceed to the extraction point. As Rhea continued through the jungle, she encountered more challenges. A swarm of needle-spitting insects forced her to use the lightsaber as a shield, its blade moving almost of its own accord to intercept the tiny projectiles. A chasm too wide to jump was crossed by using the lightsaber to cut down a massive tree, creating a bridge. With each obstacle, Rhea felt more in tune with the ancient weapon. It was as if it was teaching her, guiding her movements. Finally, she reached a clearing where a holographic shuttle waited. As she approached, a massive tentacled beast erupted from the ground, blocking her path. Rhea raised her lightsaber, no longer afraid but filled with a strange sense of calm. The beast lashed out with its tentacles, but Rhea moved with inhuman speed, dodging and slicing. The lightsaber blade left glowing trails in the air as it danced, severing tentacles and driving the creature back. With a final decisive strike, Arya plunged the blade into what she hoped was a vital spot. The beast shuddered and collapsed, dissolving into holographic particles. The jungle shimmered and faded, leaving Arya standing in the empty simulation chamber. She deactivated her lightsaber, suddenly aware of the stunned silence around her. Instructor Colax's form crackled with what might have been approval. "Most impressive, Cadet Mitchell. It seems there's more to your ancient relic than meets the eye." As Arya rejoined the other cadets, she noticed their looks had changed from dismissal to curiosity, and in some cases, wariness. Lyra's glowing form pulsed with excitement. "Arya, that was incredible. How did you do that?" Arya looked down at the lightsaber hilt, still warm in her hand. "I'm not sure. It was like the saber was guiding me, showing me what to do." Over the next few weeks, Arya's reputation grew. Word spread quickly about the human cadet with the mysterious energy blade. In class simulations and training exercises, she consistently outperformed expectations. The lightsaber moved with fluid grace in her hands, cutting through energy shields that repelled modern weapons and deflecting blaster bolts with uncanny accuracy. But with recognition came new challenges. Some of her fellow cadets, particularly those from more technologically advanced species, viewed her success with resentment. "Luck," sneered Drax, the Vulcan cadet with metallic scales and enhanced cybernetic limbs. "You've stumbled onto some lost technology. Human, don't let it go to your head." Others were more curious. Zyra, a thought weaver with gossamer wings and antennae that sparked with neural energy, cornered Arya after a particularly grueling training session. "Your weapon," Zyra said, her voice a melodic hum. "It's not just a tool, is it? I can sense something. A presence. A connection between you and it." Arya hesitated. She had been feeling the same thing, a growing awareness that the lightsaber was more than just a fancy energy blade. "I'm not sure what it is," she admitted, "but it's changing. Or maybe I'm changing. Every time I use it, I feel like I understand a little more." Zyra's antennae quivered. "Be careful, Arya. Power like that always comes with a price." As the first term progressed, Arya found herself excelling in areas she never expected. Her combat scores were off the charts, and she was developing an intuitive grasp of spatial dynamics that made her a natural in flight simulations. It was as if the lightsaber was unlocking dormant potential within her. But with her growing abilities came growing attention, and not all of it was welcome. One evening, as Arya was leaving the training grounds, she found her path blocked by a group of senior cadets. Their leader, a Zenithian named Vex, fixed her with all three of his eyes. "So, this is the human who thinks she's special," Vex said, his voice dripping with disdain. "Let's see how well you do without your little light stick." Before Arya could react, one of Vex's companions, a Gravitian with control over localized gravity fields, yanked the lightsaber from her belt. It flew into his massive hand. "Hey," Arya protested, reaching for the weapon. "Give that back." Vex laughed, a sound like grinding stones. "What's wrong, human? Afraid to face us without your crutch?" Arya felt a surge of anger, but beneath it was something else. Calm certainty, a connection she had never fully noticed before. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and reached out with her mind. To everyone's shock, including Arya's, the lightsaber tore itself from the Gravitian's grasp. It flew across the space between them, landing perfectly in Arya's outstretched hand. The saber ignited, its blue blade casting dancing shadows across the stunned faces of Vex and his cronies. Arya settled into a ready stance, the weapon humming in harmony with her own resolve. "I don't need a crutch," she said quietly, "but I'm not afraid to use every tool at my disposal. Now, are we going to have a problem?" Vex's bravado crumbled in the face of Aria's newfound confidence. He backed away, his companions following suit. "This isn't over, human," he growled, but the threat sounded hollow. As they slunk away, Aria deactivated the lightsaber, staring at it in wonder. She had called it to her, controlled it without touching it. The implications were staggering. "Well done, Cadet Mitchell," came a familiar crackling voice. Aria turned to see Instructor Kallax approaching, his plasma form rippling with what looked like approval. "It seems you're tapping into abilities long thought lost to your kind." "What do you mean?" Aria asked, her mind reeling from what had just happened. Kallax's form shimmered thoughtfully. "There are old stories, legends really, of a time when humans were more than they appeared. When they wielded powers that rivaled the greatest species in the galaxy. It seems that perhaps those stories weren't just myths." As Kallax drifted away, leaving Aria alone with her thoughts, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was on the verge of something monumental. The lightsaber had unlocked something within her, awakening dormant abilities that hinted at a greater destiny not just for her, but for all of humanity. But as she made her way back to her dormitory, a small voice in the back of her mind echoed Zyra's warning. "Power like that always comes with a price." Aria couldn't help but wonder what price she, and humanity, might have to pay for the awakening of these long-lost abilities. Little did she know that events were already in motion that would test her newfound powers to their limits, and force her to confront the true nature of her heritage and her place in the galaxy. The looming threat. As Aria's second term at the Galactic Concordat Academy began, whispers of unrest began to ripple through the usually peaceful halls. Cadets from frontier worlds spoke in hushed tones of increased pirate activity and mysterious ship disappearances along the outer rim. Even the instructors seemed on edge, their lessons taking on a more urgent tone. One crisp morning, as twin suns cast long shadows across the academy grounds, alarms blared throughout the complex. Aria jolted awake, her hand instinctively grasping her lightsaber. "This is not a drill," announced a calm yet authoritative voice over the comm system. "All cadets report to the Grand Hall immediately." Aria exchanged a worried glance with Lyra, whose luminous form pulsed with anxiety. They hurried to join the stream of cadets flooding the corridors. The Grand Hall, usually a place of ceremony and celebration, now hummed with tension. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing star maps and tactical readouts. At the center of it all stood Admiral Genva, her iridescent skin shimmering with barely contained energy. "Cadets," Genva began, her voice cutting through the murmurs, "I'll be direct. We face a threat unlike any the Concordat has encountered in generations." The main holoprojector sprang to life, displaying a massive ship of unfamiliar design. Its hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, giving it a menacing presence even as a projection. "This vessel appeared at the edge of Concordat space 3 standard days ago," Genva continued. "Since then, it has decimated our outer defense fleets and laid waste to 2 colony worlds." Gasps and cries of shock rippled through the gathered cadets. Aria felt a chill run down her spine, her grip tightening on her lightsaber. "We've been unable to establish communication or determine their origin," the Admiral said, her multiple eyes blinking in sequence. "What we do know is that their technology far exceeds our own. Our weapons seem ineffective against their shields and their weaponry." She paused, mandibles clicking in what Aria had learned was a sign of distress. "Their main cannon appears capable of destabilizing the very fabric of space-time." The hologram shifted, showing the aftermath of an attack. Where a planet should have been, there was only a swirling vortex of cosmic debris in distorted space. "In light of this threat, we're accelerating the final year training for all cadets," Genva announced. "You'll be assigned to active duty posts effective immediately. This is not how any of us wanted your education to conclude, but the Concordat needs every able being to face this threat." As the Admiral continued outlining the mobilization plan, Arya felt a strange resonance from her lightsaber. It was almost as if the weapon was responding to the dire news, humming with an energy she'd never felt before. Suddenly, a commotion near the back of the hall caught everyone's attention. The cadet. Arya recognized him as San, a chronomancer known for his ability to glimpse possible futures, was convulsing, his eyes glowing with an eerie light. "The key," San shouted, his voice echoing unnaturally. "The key to our salvation lies in the past. The human weapon, the saber of light. It holds the power to pierce the void." All eyes turned to Arya. She stood frozen, acutely aware of the weapon at her side, and the weight of 1,000 stares. Admiral Genva's gaze fixed on Arya, all 6 eyes blinking in unison. "Cadet Mitchell, it seems your unique weapon may be more significant than any of us realized. Report to my office immediately." As the assembly dispersed, a mix of fear and excitement buzzing through the air, Arya found herself swept along towards the Admiral's office. Lyra managed to catch up, her luminous form flickering with concern. "Arya," Lyra whispered, "what San said, do you think it's true? Could your lightsaber really be the key to stopping this threat?" Arya shook her head, overwhelmed. "I don't know, Lyra. It's just an old family heirloom. How could it possibly stand up against something that can destroy entire planets?" But even as she spoke, Arya felt the lightsaber pulse warmly at her side, as if reassuring her of its hidden potential. Admiral Genva's office was a marvel of holographic technology, with walls that seemed to open onto the vast expanse of space itself. As Arya entered, she found not just the Admiral waiting, but also Instructor Kallax and a being she didn't recognize, the Mimosite, known for their vast knowledge and perfect recall of galactic history. "Cadet Mitchell," Genva began without preamble, "what do you know about the origins of your weapon?" Arya swallowed hard, suddenly feeling very small in the presence of these powerful beings. "Not much, Admiral. It's been passed down through my family for generations. There are stories about it once belonging to a great warrior, but I always thought they were just legends." The Mimosite stepped forward, its crystalline body refracting light in complex patterns. "Legends often have a kernel of truth, young human. Your weapon bears a striking resemblance to artifacts from a long-lost era of galactic history." With a gesture, the Mimosite projected a series of images into the air. Ancient cave paintings, crumbling statues, and faded holograms all depicted beings wielding blades of light. These images span thousands of years and dozens of civilizations, the Mimosite explained. They tell of an order of peacekeepers and warriors who could tap into a fundamental force of the universe, the power that flowed through all living things. Arya's mind raced, but that's impossible. Humans are newcomers to the galactic stage. How could we have been part of this ancient order? Kallax's plasma form crackled with excitement. "Perhaps you weren't newcomers at all, Cadet Mitchell. There are gaps in our historical records, entire civilizations lost to time. What if humanity once stood among the greatest powers in the galaxy, only to fall and forget its heritage?" Admiral Genva cut in, her tone urgent. "Fascinating as this history lesson is, we have more pressing concerns, Cadet Mitchell. San's vision suggested your weapon might be effective against this new threat. Are you willing to put that to the test?" Arya hesitated for just a moment before squaring her shoulders. "Of course, Admiral. I'll do whatever I can to help." "Excellent," Genva said, her mandibles clicking in approval. "We're assembling a special task force to investigate a possible weakness in the enemy vessel. You'll join them, along with a select group of cadets with unique abilities." As the Admiral outlined the mission details, Arya felt a mix of terror and exhilaration. She was about to leap into the unknown, facing a threat that outmatched the combined might of the Concordat. And yet, the lightsaber at her side hummed with reassurance, as if eager for the challenge ahead. Within hours, Aria found herself aboard the Stellar Forge, a Concord stealth ship specially outfitted for the mission. Around her, a team of elite cadets prepared for the task ahead. There was Zyra, the Thought Weaver, her neural energy crackling with anticipation. Drax, the Vulcan, his cybernetic enhancements gleaming under the ship's lights. And to Aria's surprise, Vex, the Zenithian who had once confronted her, now looked at her with a mixture of respect and uncertainty. As the Stellar Forge disengaged from the Academy's docking bay and slipped into the swirling eddies of hyperspace, Aria took a deep breath. She ignited her lightsaber, its familiar hum filling her with determination. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever secrets her weapon and her heritage held, Aria knew one thing for certain: the fate of the galaxy now rested, at least in part, on her shoulders, and she was ready to face it head-on. Little did Aria know that this mission would not only test the limits of her growing abilities, but also force her to confront the true nature of her lightsaber, her heritage, and the ancient power that flowed through her veins. The greatest trial of her life, and perhaps the key to humanity's true place in the cosmos, awaited in the cold, unforgiving depths of space. Unleashing the true power, the Stellar Forge dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Nix Nebula, a swirling mass of cosmic dust and newborn stars. In the distance, the menacing form of the alien vessel loomed, its light-absorbing hull a stark contrast against the colorful backdrop. Captain Thilla, a veteran Aquilian with shimmering scales and piercing eyes, addressed the assembled team. "Our mission is to infiltrate the enemy ship, gather intelligence, and if possible, find a weakness we can exploit. Cadet Mitchell, your unique weapon may be our best chance at penetrating their defenses." Aria nodded, her hand resting on the lightsaber's hilt. As the team made final preparations, she felt a familiar presence at her side. It was Zyra, the Thought Weaver, her antennae quivering with a mix of excitement and anxiety. "I can sense your turmoil, Aria," Zyra said softly, "but also your strength. Whatever happens, trust in yourself and that remarkable weapon of yours." Before Aria could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. The enemy had detected them. "Evasive maneuvers," Captain Thilla shouted. The Stellar Forge banked hard, narrowly avoiding a blast of energy that warped the very space around it. In the chaos that followed, Aria felt a sudden, overwhelming pull from her lightsaber. Without fully understanding why, she raced to the ship's airlock. "Mitchell, what are you doing?" Drax yelled, his cybernetic eye whirring as he tried to track her movements. Aria's hands moved of their own accord, inputting an override code she shouldn't have known. The airlock opened, and she found herself facing the cold vacuum of space. "Aria, no." Zyra's panicked cry was the last thing she heard before stepping into the void. But instead of the icy grip of death, Aria felt power. Raw, unfiltered energy coursed through her body. The lightsaber ignited in her hand, its blade elongating to impossible lengths, creating a bridge of pure light between the Stellar Forge and the alien vessel. Aria walked across this impossible bridge, each step filled with certainty. Behind her, she sensed rather than saw her teammates following, shielded by the lightsaber's energy. As they reached the alien ship, Aria's blade effortlessly cut through the hull, creating an entrance. The team entered, finding themselves in a corridor that seemed to defy conventional physics, with gravity shifting and reality itself seeming to bend around them. "Be the cosmic seas," Vex whispered, all three of his eyes wide with awe. "What is this place?" Aria felt the lightsaber pulling her forward, guiding her through the twisting passages. "This way," she said, her voice resonating with newfound authority. They encountered alien beings, creatures of shadow and distorted light, that seemed more like cosmic anomalies than living things. Aria's lightsaber cut through their defenses as if they were mist, its blue blade leaving trails of restored reality in its wake. Finally, they reached what could only be the ship's core. A swirling vortex of dark energy, fed by streams of matter from countless consumed worlds. "This is wrong," Zyra said, her antennae sparking with distress. "They're not just destroying planets. They're unraveling the very fabric of our universe." Maria stepped forward, raising her lightsaber. The blade pulsed, growing brighter with each passing moment. "No," she said, realization dawning. "They're not unraveling it. They're trying to break through, to somewhere else." The lightsaber suddenly felt alive in her hands, filled with the wisdom and power of countless generations. In that moment, Maria understood. Her weapon, her heritage, the very essence of humanity. It was all connected to something greater, a fundamental force that permeated all of existence. With a cry that echoed across dimensions, Arya plunged the lightsaber into the heart of the vortex. Light exploded outward, engulfing everything. Arya felt herself stretched across time and space, witnessing the rise and fall of civilizations, the birth and death of stars. She saw humanity's true history, not just newcomers to the galactic stage, but ancient guardians of cosmic balance, wielders of a power beyond imagination. And then, as suddenly as it began, it was over. Part 5. Humanity's New Role. Arya found herself back on the bridge of the Stellar Forge, surrounded by her bewildered teammates. Through the viewscreen, they watched as the alien vessel shimmered and faded from existence, leaving behind only a faint ripple in the fabric of space-time. What happened?" Captain Phila asked, her scales shifting colors rapidly in confusion. Arya looked down at the lightsaber in her hand, its hilt now etched with glowing symbols she somehow understood. "We restored balance," she said simply. "They were trying to pierce the veil between universes, to conquer realities beyond our own. I sealed the breach." In the days that followed, as the Concordat celebrated their miraculous salvation, Arya found herself at the center of a whirlwind of questions, theories, and no small amount of awe. Scientists and historians pored over the new markings on her lightsaber, confirming what she already knew in her heart: humanity's connection to an ancient universal force. Admiral Genva called a special assembly at the Academy, with representatives from every Concordat world in attendance. Arya stood before them, no longer just a cadet but a symbol of a power long thought lost. "Today marks a new chapter in galactic history," Genva announced, her iridescent form gleaming with pride. "We face not only the resurrection of an ancient power, but the reawakening of a species long destined for greatness. Humanity, through through Guardian Arya Mitchell, has proven itself to be not just our allies, but our guides into a new era of cosmic harmony." Arya stepped forward, acutely aware of the weight of countless eyes upon her. She ignited her lightsaber, its blue blade now shot through with threads of gold and silver. "What happened out there? What I experienced? It's bigger than just me, bigger than humanity," she began, her voice carried to every corner of the assembly. "This power, this connection to the fundamental forces of the universe, it's within all of us. Humans may have been its guardians once, but now, we have a chance to share it, to teach others to connect with it." She looked out at the sea of faces, her fellow cadets, her instructors, representatives from 100 worlds. "We stand at a crossroads. We can use this power to dominate, to conquer, or we can use it as it was always meant to be used, to protect, to nurture, to bring balance to a chaotic cosmos." In the months and years that followed, a new order arose within the Concordat, centered around the teachings Arya had unlocked from her ancestral weapon. It welcomed beings from all species who showed sensitivity to the universal force. The Academy expanded, becoming not just a military institution but a center for spiritual and metaphysical study. Humans, once seen as newcomers, became respected teachers and peacekeepers. Arya, now Grand Master of the New Order, worked tirelessly to help others unlock their connection to the force that bound all living things together. But it wasn't always easy. There were those who feared this reawakened power, who saw it as a threat to the established order. And whispers came from the fringes of known space of other factions who sought to exploit this power for their own ends. As Arya stood on the balcony of the newly constructed Temple of Universal Harmony, watching ships from 100 worlds come and go, she felt the familiar weight of her lightsaber at her side. She knew that the journey she had begun that day in the Academy was far from over. There would be new challenges, new threats, new wonders to discover. But as she looked out at the stars, feeling the pulse of the universe flowing through her, Arya smiled. Whatever the future held, humanity had found its place in the cosmic tapestry. And she would be there, lightsaber in hand, ready to face whatever came next.